Welcome to our QPR Preview Show ahead of the trip to bottom of the table, Plymouth Argyle. And I think I speak for all of us when I say it's good to have the league action back after the annual embarrassment of the FA Cup. The R's losing 6-2 against top flight Leicester. And I know you were there, Dave. And the first question has to be, could you actually see anything?
Thankfully, we couldn't see that much of it from where we were stood. It was awful conditions. The fog was awful. I mean, surprised they finished the game, to be honest. But it was just so disappointing. You know, we went with such high hopes, and from when the team come out, you're like, oh, he's rested a lot of the players in form, and Leicester had a strong side out, and just the way we played, it was like when we played Leicester away last year, we were so organised and disciplined, and there was no gaps anywhere, and they couldn't play for us, and they just had the ball a lot of the time. We couldn't do anything with it, but we just had gaps everywhere. We were so easy to play through, and I mean, it could have been a lot more than six, to be honest. They were just carving through us at times, and even though we were still in the game at half time, somehow we got back to 3-2. It just made no changes. There was obvious changes. Madsen was struggling. Ashby was struggling. We did nothing. It was like we didn't want to win the game, and then it got worse and worse and worse. And yeah, it was just embarrassing in the end. Really disappointing.
Yeah, it probably should have been called off. I think when you look at every
Yeah.
image I've seen from a fan who was there, it made it look like you couldn't see a single thing. I don't know how the officials were calling offsides on the far side of the pitch. Referee clearly didn't want to have wasted his money on his petrol to get there. I didn't think we deserved to lose 6-2. Don't think we can complain that we deserved to lose the game, but 6-2 was a bit harsh because it was a strange game. There was only, I think, 9 shots on target in the game and 8 goals. So yeah, it was the goal after half time, like you say, the penalty just seemed to kill us off because
Yeah.
obviously to come back and then come back again, we'd already done it twice. It just seemed to completely knock the stuffing out of us. The defense, you're kind of touching on it. It's the first time since Marty Cifuentes took over that we've conceded 6 in a game. We hadn't even conceded 5 before. He got it wrong, didn't he? The defense, no two ways about it.
Yeah, and it was similar to games earlier in the season against Middlesbrough and Hull. There just gaps everywhere, gaps between the defence and midfield. The opposite of what we've done the last 5-6 weeks. We're just so easy to play through. And Leicester are not a great side, but they've got a lot of good players. And you know, if they were in the Championship, they'd be up top of it again, wouldn't they? And they just found it too easy to play through us. We just didn't make it a difficult game for them, and that's kind of what I was hoping for, that we'd make life hard for them and maybe sneak a tight game. But yeah, it was just really disappointing. Hopefully, it's just a one-off because we've been so good the last 6 weeks or so. So it's just frustrating to see us play like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think without Steve Cook and without Jimmy Dunn, we just lacked
Mm.
that dominant figure at the back, didn't we? I agree with what you kind of alluded to before. At half time, it was so obvious to me that Jimmy Dunn needed to come on. We were in the game, as we just said. He left Ashby on and paid the price. And I'm starting to sound like a bit of a broken record with Harrison Ashby, but he's just too casual about everything he does. He needs to really knuckle down and get some consistency in his play. Ronnie Edwards, bit of a harrowing debut for him, but he looked like what he is, isn't he? Someone who hasn't really played football for 6 months. But to be honest, Jake Clark-Salter, Kenneth Powell, they were poor too. When you concede 6 goals, all of your defenders have had a bit of a nightmare. But funnily, Leicester's XG was actually lower than Luton's in the last league game that we won. So, like I said, I don't think we deserve to concede 6. And it was the first time there's been 8 goals in a QPR game since we lost 5-3 to Barnsley in December 2019. Under Marty, like he'd said, didn't he, before the game, he was going to try and change the mentality around the club, and he doesn't want people saying "our typical QPR" anymore. But then why did he make so many changes? There was no joined up thinking last week, was there?
No, that was what really annoyed me because he said all that on the Friday, and you think, oh, we're going to go for it. And you know, I do get resting players in the cup. We've had a lot of games recently, but the league position we're in, you'd think this is the ideal time to have a go for it. They had a week until the next league game. I just didn't get it. And like we both said, it was at half time that annoyed me most because we were still in the game 3-2. I mean, we were well in the game. Leicester weren't amazing, but he didn't make the changes, and he didn't make any changes till it was like 20 minutes to go. And you could just see that they obviously weren't that bothered about it. And fair enough. I mean, let's be honest, we weren't going to win the FA Cup anyway, but you know, you've thrown away, and you know, if it had been the same draw and away game at Man United with a lot of money coming in, might need that money come the summer, you know, for new contracts, that sort of thing. Yeah, it was just really frustrating. But we do this every year. I don't know why I'm surprised or annoyed by it. It's the same every year. We'll be doing it same time next year. We'll do the same thing again.
Yeah, we could just probably put this show back on as a
Yeah,
repeat. But I find it frustrating because my generation, I mean, we're talking about people who supported QPR now for like nearly 30 years. We still never had a cup run ever in our lifetime. It's absolutely crazy. I would love a cup run. It doesn't matter if it's only to the round five, the quarterfinals. It would be so exciting. And it just feels to me like we just wrote the game off. I know he was trying to talk it up beforehand, but there's no way he was taking it serious, making six changes. Well, not as serious as a league game anyway. And I guess, thankfully, now that the FA Cup, given our FA Cup record, it's back to the league action. And the win against Luton feels a long time ago, actually. It's easy to forget, but we're actually on a good run of league form. Back-to-back home wins, 7 points from 9, one defeat in 11 league games. And the big question on forums and in the comments last week is a QPR now headed into the real like meat and drink of the new year? Are QPR looking up or looking down in the table? What do you think?
well, there's an opportunity to look up with the games they've got the next few weeks. They can, we're playing the bottom of the league side. It won't be easy, but you've got to be looking to go there and get something. You know, you look at the fixtures coming up. There's no reason why they can't carry on this run. We've got only a couple out injured at the moment, so we could certainly be looking up. I think like everyone, you're still a bit twitchy looking below and think what a bad week could do. But we've done amazing to get ourselves in this position. I don't think anyone saw this coming in mid-November that we would be mid-table and thinking about looking up the table. So we've done really well to do that, and it'd be great if we could build on it.
Yeah, I'd be honest, happily look sideways, just kind of stay where we are.
Yeah,
I think we still throw in too many poor performances, like a bit like Leicester. I know that was against a top flight team, but Swansea as well. If we do that, you've got no chance of ever chasing the top six. We've probably left ourselves way too much to do anyway.
yeah.
There was a bit of a debate on our forum this week over whether the defeat at Leicester will harm our momentum, and we could slide down the table of a result. I don't think it will. It was six changes, as we just said. The players have had a week off. They should be motivated to get going again.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. This run of fixtures isn't too bad on paper. If you look up until about Sheffield United at the start of March, there's nothing to really fear. Teams we should be competitive against. And this week, the next two matches are against the bottom two. So let's see what we get from these two games. And then I guess we'll reassess and see where we possibly can get to. But it's Plymouth up first, a 12:30 terrible trip to Plymouth away that early in the day. The last three meetings since their promotion have all been draws, which means over the last 20 years, QPR have only won one of the last 15 games against Plymouth. And we last won at home park, incredibly, on the 18th of January 2003. So it's going to be 22 years to the day and date for this rematch. Surely there's a little bit of fate in there for us, maybe a bit of destiny that we can finally get another win there. But we shall see. When it comes to Plymouth, the most inevitable disaster of the season, wasn't it? The appointment of Wayne Rooney. What did they really think was going to happen there, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed inevitable from when they brought him in. It's such a shame because I do have a lot of time for Rooney. He could just put his feet up. He's obviously a very rich man from his career, and he doesn't have to go into management. But he's tried to give it a go. He's just not got it really, and it's a shame for him. But it did seem inevitable he was going to go at some point this season. He's probably gone at a point where the season's still savable for him. I know they're bottom, but there's still a lot of games to go, and I think we were in that position probably this time last year and got out of it. So they have got time to get there, but yeah, he does keep getting these jobs, Rooney. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets another one.
Yeah, I think he's got Michael Beale's PowerPoint on his USB stick or
Yeah,
something, hasn't he? But I can only think his appointment was about raising the profile of the club, maybe attracting players to
yeah.
that part of the country. But from the outside looking in, it just seemed so inevitable that eventually he was going to get sacked. He's of course left them bottom of the table. They now have a new manager, Miron Muslik, I think it is his name. I don't think any of us can confess to knowing too much about him. He joins Plymouth from Belgium Pro League side, but his speech to the players upon joining Plymouth has been doing the rounds on social media. You can probably find it on YouTube after you watched us. Have you seen it, Dave? And what do you make of his appointment?
Yeah, I want to play for him. He was really good. It was really impressive. I'd like confess never heard of the guy until I saw that clip. Yeah, it was really impressive. He come across well, but it's easy to to do that. It's whether they can translate it onto the pitch. It'd be another thing, but they needed to make a change, and it seems like it's had an impact. They won in the cup last week, didn't they? And you know, hopefully they because I quite like Plymouth. Hopefully they can do better second half of the season after Saturday.
Yeah, it was definitely a great
Yeah,
speech. I agree with you. He had me wanting to pull on a green jersey, but it's just words, as you say. And you know what football's like. If he gets results, he's going to be flavour of the month. If Plymouth still haven't won in 5 or 6 games' time, then it is all just words, isn't it? And they'll be saying,
yeah.
"Who's this guy that we've hired here?" What we did learn from his speech is he wants his team high up the pitch. We said that a few times. He wants people knowing Plymouth was a tough match. He wants to make them hard to play against. Like you said, though, they beat Brentford in the cup, but in the league, they've drawn 3 games since they sacked Rooney. The midweek draw with Oxford made it 12 league games without a win. So it's bad form, but a new manager. Is it a good or bad time to play them? What do you think?
I think probably bad. They are starting to improve a little bit, and you know, the record doesn't suggest it, but they aren't that bad at home. They have got a few results at home this season. It's a difficult place to go. Um, you know, I thought they'd beat Oxford in midweek, but obviously they drew in that game, so it's a big one for them. They need to get a result against this weekend. So it definitely won't be an easy game for us. But like we've said, apart from last week, we're in decent form. So in good form really. So I think we can go there with confidence.
Yeah, I think it's maybe potentially a better time to play him now because they've had a 3 game week, so he's had no time really on the training ground with them. So that maybe could be good for us. They've got to be low on confidence overall. I mean, not beating Oxford in midweek, that won't have helped there. And I'm actually glad they got the first home game with a new manager out of the way in midweek. Otherwise, we'd have been facing that, which wouldn't have helped. But just to illustrate their slide, their last league win was against Portsmouth back on the 5th of November. That was the same date QPR were hitting our low point against Middlesbrough. And at that point in the season, Plymouth were 5 points above us, and now we're 11 points above them. We've picked up 22 points since then. They've only picked up 6. It's going to be tough to arrest that slide for the new manager. But I agree with you. I like Plymouth as a club, so we wish him well just after Saturday afternoon. For QPR, the main news out of the club this week was the new deals for Kieran Morgan and Alfie Lloyd. Good news, Dave, but it feels like they need to be the first of many.
Yeah, definitely. Really pleased from both. Morgan's been excellent for us. A real find, and since he come on in that game against Portsmouth, you thought, oh, hang on, we've got something here, and I'm glad they've tied him down because that was a bit nervy that he was doing so well and he was starting to get plaudits on TV as well. So I'm glad they've got him. Alfie Lloyd's had a really good season. He looks like a good impact player off the bench. But like I say, there are others we need to get. Ryan Coley's the obvious one, and we need to kind of tie him down. He's scoring goals for us now. He looks like he's got a lot of potential. And there's Jimmy Dunn as well as out of contract. I'd like to get Chair on a longer deal as well, but hopefully they're drip feeding the contract news and we get a few more in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, or maybe one a day until the end of January or something like that. They seem to
Yeah.
do it, don't they? Alfie Lloyd's enthusiasm and like his excitement is unrivaled. It's great to see. It's well worth watching his interview to anybody who's not already seen it. I agree with the names you just listed. And obviously, Kenneth Powell as well is the only one I'd add in there. But they've been trying to talk to him. We're led to believe for like 6 to 12 months, and he's still not signed the new deal. So looks like he could leave. But whether they're going to bring in a new left back, we'll probably find out over the next fortnight. In terms of the team for Plymouth, we know Paul Nardi is going to return in goal. The defence, though, as we said earlier, bit of a disaster last week. Jimmy Dunn almost certain to return, but does Morgan Fox return too?
Uh, it's a difficult one because we've got coming into a 3 game week, and Clark sort of won't do both games, so I'd probably go with Clark Sauter and Dunn centre halves for this one. Um, but they have got options. They don't want to change it around too much. It's probably the question he's got is what he does at right back. If he sticks with Ashby, who had a bit of a disaster last week, or he goes back to Dunn then and you play Edwards and Clark Sauter together. Personally, I'd go Dunn and Clark Sauter in the middle, but it'd be interesting to see what he does.
Yeah, I suspect it could be, but I'd have Dunn. I want to keep Dunn in the middle. I think he's been,
Mm.
like I say, you missed him. If you haven't got Steve Cook, you need Jimmy Dunn at the centre of the defence. You just need that imposing figure back there. I think Morgan Fox should come back into the side. We had a good run with him recently. He's some of his best QPR displays. Clark Salter, we have to say, did not have a good game at Leicester. So I think Morgan Fox deserves to come back into the side. In midfield, sorry, it's Nicholas Madsen time because it's probably a month or so since we've had to discuss him, but he's been a primary topic this week across social media and the forums of after he disappeared into the mist in Leicester and wasn't seen for 90 minutes. Where do you stand on him now?
Yeah, it was easier to hide in the fog again when it the week. I never saw him at all, but yeah, he was doing okay in these last run of games, but at Leicester he was just invisible when he he just doesn't put the work in that you need from a championship midfielder. The difference between him and Morgan is night and day. And yeah, I wouldn't be starting him in any game, to be honest. If they could offload him this month or in the summer, try and get some money back on him, I'd definitely be doing that. It just hasn't worked. Maybe it'll work for him in a different league or a different club, but I just can't see it working for him here. So I definitely wouldn't be starting him at the weekend.
Yeah, it's whether they need to find him alone just to kind of get him his mojo back. Maybe he can go somewhere, get a bit of confidence because obviously Leicester, it was another zero tackle episode for him and only one duel, which he lost. He just has to find a way of getting more involved. I don't know how he does it in midfield. It's just so hard. We've said it before. I mean, he's 6'4", but he lacks the ability to impose himself on games, doesn't he? And I think a lot of QPR fans are done with him now, and it's going to need a huge performance from him at some point to try and turn around the view of him that's out there. I don't think it'll be on Saturday though, because it'll almost certainly be Samfield, Varane, and Morgan starting if they're all fit. Paul Smith, we'd expect to replace the slightly out of sorts Koki Saito. Not had the best few weeks, but Ryan Coley, he got a goal, should have probably had another. Do you expect Michael Frey to come back in though?
Uh, Possibly, mainly for the way he closes down, but again, same as at centre half. It's one of them that, because you got the 2 games back to back. Bray, like Clark, sort of won't play both games, so it's which one do you pick him in? I don't know enough about Plymouth to know where the weaknesses are at the back. Whether it'd be Frey or Coley they go with, but I thought Frey was excellent against Luton, so probably go with him for this one.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it's not Chair, Smith, and Frey, but then you're right, it's probably going to then facilitate some changes for the whole game in midweek. And finally, of course, it's an away match, and QPR's away form has been a bit off. Primarily, away performance is quite negative, very, very different tempo and style compared to us at home. Any concern there for you?
Slightly, I think been very cautious on the road. They were a bit like that last season as well, and it worked for us, but it hasn't in recent weeks. But they it'd be great to get a result away, but it doesn't seem a long time ago where we couldn't buy a win at home, and now we're beating everyone at home. So these things do change quickly.
Yeah, we had no shots on target, did we, in the last 2 away games? That's the only reason I raised the question. He's obviously gone back to making us hard to beat, but it's now probably a case of getting the balance right. He did the right thing, but I don't think we can go to the end of the season just barely getting out of our own half in every away game. Not been great to watch, I don't think, especially on the road, compared to how amazing the home games have been. Hopefully that changes on Saturday, and that'll probably lead us into your prediction. Will we make it that nice symmetry of winning at Plymouth on the 18th of January, 22 years on from the last time?
It would be nice, but I'm going to go with a draw for this one. I think it'll be a tight one. This fixture normally ends in a draw. There's been, like you mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of draws in this one, so I think it'll be a draw again at the weekend, which doesn't really suit either side, to be honest. But I think that's how it'll end up.
Yeah, I think it's got a draw written all over it. I think most people will probably agree. Let us know in the comments. But like you say, something about this matchup just ends up even. Even back in August, we played against 10 men for 60 minutes, didn't we? And still couldn't get a win over them. Their fans are going to obviously be well up for it with the new manager live on TV. I don't think a draw would actually be a bad result for QPR here, given how well we've been playing at home. And worth remembering, I think you said it before, but they weren't even that bad at home when Wayne Rooney was there. So it's not an easy match, even though they're bottom of the table. So 1-1 would be my prediction. Brian and George will be on the next show because, as we've alluded to, got a midweek trip to Hull to come. And it's a tough week on the road for our fans, that is for sure. And then Dave and I will be back next week to preview a home clash with Sheffield Wednesday. Until then, thank you for watching as always, and come on, you R's.